Welcome again to, well, another edition of Rampage's Redemption League. I am Xenaero, and I am joined by HateDaddy, who apparently has something stuck in his throat. How are you doing, Hate?
My apologies. Yeah, I am fantastic. I literally just got done eating dinner, so you may hear me clear my throat once or twice. I'm hoping that's the last of it.
Oh, well, you've had dinner, but we're here for dessert. The Net Boys versus No Lux Given. What can you tell us about these two teams?
So, looking over both of the teams, the one player that's going to jump out to me right away is Caboose. There is a little bit of drama. I'm not going to say a lot of drama, but a little bit of drama. And for the sake of being consistent, I should say Ross King, but many of us older players know him as Caboose. But Ross King kind of entered into the draft last second. And so there's a little bit of drama right there. But certainly you look at their team, right? No Lux Given has got Amar, Ross King, Legion, a right-hand man. Now, Amar is notorious for being a Xandronim player that you can't even be within like 20 yards of without being one shot. Very, very, very sharp aim. Ross King is one of the best to ever do it. The guy is a winner. He wins everywhere he goes. You could give him, a house plant and a watch and he'd win with that somehow. So he's not technically the captain, but I suspect that he's going to take over a role like that. So No Lux Given is definitely a team that kind of I'm not sure about, because the balance is definitely there, but I'm not sure their ceiling is very high. And I say that because I think Legion might be where their ceiling kind of caps out at. I have a lot of respect for a player like Legion, but Legion, I don't know if he fits with their squad. So it's not so much that it's a lack of skill thing with Legion. It's more that I don't know that Legion works well with those two. Now I know they have they have a history with each other. At least Legion and Ross King do. But looking at the team, those are my concerns initially. Now, moving on to, and it's the Net Boys, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're a team too that I have some questions about. X-Wiz and Infer are really, really good. And Ed is, when you're getting the best version of him, one of the best players in the league. But are you going to get that version? That's always the question with Ed. It's always a question of motivation. I have every reason to think that he will be, just because I haven't seen anything in this league, in this season, or in any of these games yet to show that he won't be. So if I'm assuming that, then I look at DNB as the favorite. I just think X-Wiz and Infer are going to play really well and gel really well together. But for whatever reason, even if Ed doesn't work, they always have the option of throwing Saltmine in, who is a really good player, and I think one of the most undervalued picks in the draft. So looking at both teams, I definitely feel like DNB has the edge if we're getting that best version of Ed. But if we're not, then I look at No Lux Given to kind of take control of this early and dominate.
All right. Well, there's always a potential for the teams to be somewhat volatile, but real quick for everybody at home who is not familiar with the format, we do have a summary and rules page up on the screen now. Red and blue in a 3v3 capture the flag format, where teams can field any 3 players from their roster of 4. Rounds are to 10 minutes or 5 flags, whichever happens first, and we are looking for a victory in a best of 3. Now, there are no ties overall, so if we end up with a tie at the end of round 3, then we'll be continuing to go. It's a format commonly known as overtime in previous leagues. That is in effect during the regular season now in Redemption. So
we might see a tie earlier.
Maybe we will this time. The flag counter for the round in the middle of the round will be on the HUD in the lower right, and then we'll have the round counter in the upper right there. You see it below where it says Redemption Week 1. But now we'll jump into the game itself. Which server are they in?
The one with lots of people. I know that's not very helpful.
Server B. All right, jump in here.
So what are your thoughts while you're connecting? What are your thoughts on them removing the capacity for a tie?
Boyz. Sorry, folks. New setup. Removing the capacity for a tie. I think it might make for some interesting games. Right now, we're going over the map and showing how short it is. Real briefly, there is a mega armor that spawns in the middle where that red player, around where that red player was, disappeared it, and sorry, I'm having trouble with my client right now.
What's the issue?
Well, just alt tab first of all.
Oh,
There we go.
yeah. Xandro can have some issues with that.
It's okay. I believe teams are disconnecting and they'll be reconnecting to start their demos. Demo recording is a requirement.
Did you get a good nap?
Hmm?
I said, did you get a good nap? Because you know this is going to be wild and crazy.
Nope. It might be. It really depends on how these teams are going to kind of coalesce around each other, because this is a very short map. From the flag, you're already out to mid in a couple seconds. We saw a ridiculous game earlier where if you don't have your entire team looking for a flag carrier, you might be on the back foot and you might be on it very fast.
Yeah, I have every reason to think, though, that these teams are going to mirror each other in strategy, just because I think XWiz and Ross King have really similar approaches to CTF. So I definitely think you'll see kind of a lot of what you saw earlier. I think you might see some more creative flag handling in this game, though, because I think the runners in this game, as compared to what we played earlier, are a little bit more finesse. So maybe there's some creativity. I'm just not sure how much room there is for creativity in a map like this.
Red team scores.
Looks like we'll be seeing Wiz, Ed, and Infer against... I have no idea who I'm looking at. Ross King with Legion, and I'm not sure who Mac is.
I'm gonna guess that that's probably just Amar.
Really need players to kind of, use the names that we're, hoping to see, but it's okay.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. It's all fun and games to do that while you're in your practices and whatnot, but in the games, you should really make it. This is my name, this is who I am. But different generations, different people, different lines of thinking.
We do try to make it easy for the viewers at home, that is our concern, but that's okay. We're going to be getting into round 1, and we'll get this best of 3 underway. Hope everybody's having a good time at home.
Red flag returns.
And here we go.
And we're starting off watching Ross King, who is unable to get across middle, but as soon as a flag touch happens, we'll be switching to that carrier's point of view. In this case, he'll be in for nearly... Oh, he does get out to mid, and he gets across. You see how quick you can cross mid like that?
Yeah.
Multiple routes. And you can pretty easily burn the defenders, but both flags are back at their pedestals.
So interestingly, they have Ed on D. I was kind of unsure of who they were going to have D. I suspected it might have actually been Infer, because Infer's a solid defender, but Infer's probably a little bit more polished as a scorer than Ed is, and there's our first cap, by the way.
Yeah, that's how quick it can... you can capture real fast on that. We watched Ross King just kind of dance across mid and back into his own base in, what, less than 10 seconds, I believe?
Yeah.
So, if you're not on top of defense in this map, it's very open-ended, but which means, people can collapse back in from mid as well. Infer with a touch, and he's got support. Misses one shot. He's got... Oh, but he does have support from his team behind him.
Interestingly, for anybody who watched the game earlier, you're going to see some different styles right away. Watching Ross King, he's running completely differently than anything we saw earlier. both teams were fragging a lot. Even their runners would attempt to fight as they went out of the base. Ross King is not looking to fight. He is flag pressure, rocket jumping. He is in and out. I mentioned that earlier, and I expected I'd see it with Ross. I haven't gotten a chance to look at Wiz yet, but probably something similar.
Red flag dropped. Red flag taken. Blue flag taken. Red flag dropped.
They got both flag carriers. Man.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that nature of the map, right? Like, it's so chaotic.
Ross King has. Oh, is the flag still down up top? It did. It got picked up and scored by, I believe, whoever Mac is.
Yeah.
Ed?
Look at the stats.
Dude,
look at the stats. Ross has 5 frags.
Red flag.
Look at the scoreboard here real quick.
Team scores.
Like,
Yeah,
he's not
Ross
even
King is
attempting
not-
to frag.
He's not putting any like actual
Red flag taken.
gun power out in the field right now.
Red flag taken.
He's leaving that to his 2 teammates, and I guess he's the main runner. He is racking up a lot of different touches. He nearly gets away with the red flag in his own base. That would have been a capture.
Blue flag taken.
Yeah, which just ended up being a return for the other team and a score. I mean, and it would be interesting to have a display to see what the total score of a player is. Xandronum is different from Z-Damon and Odomex, and that Z-Damon and Odomex give like a total player score. Xandronum only looks at frags. So if you look at the scoreboard right now, you're just like, my God, Ross King isn't doing anything. Now, they do look at who's captured flags, but they don't give you points for like assists or returns or anything like that. So you just get like that really black and white dichotomy of who scored and who's fragged.
Flag taken.
Yep, those are the 2 you get on the scoreboard here anyways, but I mean, you'll be... There's an important story to have that is told on the field here too. Like, you know, you won't know by looking at the scoreboard that Legion was able to pick up and secure that capture, but if you're paying attention to the game, if you're watching this broadcast here from the comfort of your home.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, there's another score there.
Yep, 3-1 in favor of NLG. So Legion doing some work with supporting his team and converting that capture.
Flag returned.
Yeah, Legion's been a man possessed so far. Watching him, one of the things I said earlier was I wasn't sure how well they gelled. Guess what? They're gelling. So, super impressed with Legion so far. Really looking at DNB though and hoping that they can pick it up because I don't think they should be steamrolled in this matchup.
I wouldn't call a deficit of 2 flags down with 5 minutes to go. Too much of a steamroll at the moment. Yeah, they're bleeding a little bit, but that is also the nature of this kind of map. Like, this type of map is... You almost can't call it quick enough. Like, even then, I switched back. I figured out Legion had the flag. Switched to him. He already was at the podium capturing 4-1 for NLG.
Yeah, and I wasn't really looking at the score so much. Now the score looks like they're steamrolling. But just looking at the flow of the game. Like,
Flag taken. Red flag.
you look
Oh,
at
rocket
NLG.
jump out to mid from Ed. He's
Yeah.
but he had a player in front of him and couldn't hold on to
Nothing.
it.
You look at NLG, they're just out of sorts. Whereas, or not NLG, DNB rather, they're just out of sorts, right? Whereas, like, NLG is committed to this flag. They are living on this flag. And they're willing to sacrifice defense for it. And I'm not sure what NLG needs to do here other than get more aggressive. And that sounds very generic, but look, like you're not gonna grind out NLG at this point. So the only thing you can do is become more offensive. So it's kind of changing, but I still see NLG kind of controlling the tempo as of right now.
Blue flag taken.
Yeah, and
Red flag.
they maybe, but I mean, we've seen teams collapse at a 4-2 as
That's
well.
true. Plenty of time too. Like don't look at that as like the authority on anything because it can change.
Like, we've definitely seen over the years, and even during these broadcasts, that there are that might be round 1, but no. But it got picked up and scored like last second. You can't even switch that quick. So that'll be the first round for NLG. They just
I
need one
wondered
more.
too, when we were talking about the game earlier in the previous game, I wondered
that
how
coming
Ross
from?
King's team would play on this. I mean, I knew they were going to be aggressive, but my goodness, I mean, it was just relentless flag pressure from NLG.
Red flag taken. Blue flag taken.
Opening Infer and Ross with each other's team flags. Oh, Ross King picked it up like as he respawned, but he still lost it overall. That was a great. You don't see that very often.
Good return. There it is.
And Legion has the first touch, or well, first score rather. So that'll be NLG up on the field again.
And watching the game so far, I'm looking at DNB, and they're trying to do what NLG is doing. They're just getting run over when they're trying to do it. So, again, I said be more aggressive, but you can't get more defensive because then they're just going to cave in on you. So, I don't know what needs to change. I don't know if maybe they need to switch positions or something. Maybe put Ed on the front line and let him do damage that way. But as it stands now, they're just getting pressured to death.
Yeah. They're having a problem controlling the flow of the flag outside of their own base, for sure. Legion's ready to score, while Infer has the red flag, and he has the blue flag rather in the blue base. He does have blue armor, which will help him a bit, but
What a save. But see what I mean? Like, they're out of sorts. Like, they had what should have been a surefire capture right there. And nobody thought, hey, check the base in DL. Like, and that's not to say that they're bad or anything, but that's what happens when you start succumbing to pressure. Little things like that happen, where it's like, oh, we've got a cap. Wait, we miscounted, and there was a guy sitting at our flag pedestal, and that guy saved the cap.
Blue flag taken.
currently 2-0. Ross tried a very shallow angle rocket jump to save himself.
Yeah, you saw
health.
that too.
Yep. And Legion lost the flag, but Infer unable to score. Got saved at the last second. That is 2 flags they've lost so far that I've caught.
Again, it's the pressure, man. Like, they're just not running and playing together.
It's like they're getting it across, the dangerous mid zone, but when it comes to converting it to a capture, they're losing it like within arm's reach of the flag.
Yeah. And
Rusty
maybe
has
that was
the
a
red
shift,
flag,
right?
but he's not challenging. Oh, and then Infer with the blue flag. And Ross came and grabbed it back and got it returned just in time for his teammate to score. 3-0 in round 2.
And I think the
looking good.
reason why we're seeing that too, Zen, is as I'm watching DNB, they've practically converted to all in. I mean, they're not really defending their flag. They haven't been. So you're going to get that too. When you just kind of give up on D like that completely, you're going to have guys that can just freely waltz into your base and sit there and wait for it. So their answer to the pressure that Ross King was putting on them and Ross King's team was putting on them was, we need to put more pressure, but it's coming at the expense of our defense. It's like, it's a tale of two stories, right? Like, what do they say? Death by a million paper cuts versus, the big explosive death. That they're picking both poisons, and both are resulting in what you're seeing in front of you. They're just getting steamrolled.
Great rocket jump from Ross King. Gets out to mid, but the lower health, gets just sniped by Super Shotgun from farther away. He's got the flag again, and 1-8. Oh my goodness, the cover from his team, as well as that excellent Super Shotgun work that we saw on the screen. 5-0 for the boys in blue. And that'll, well, shoot them. That's how fast it goes. That's how fast it goes.
Remember when I said earlier that, which team was it? Very Bad Mothers might be the best team in the league. I'm gonna say VBM and No Luck's Given are like neck and neck. That was a clinic that they just put on. I mean, absolute offensive clinic. That is how you establish pressure. They, and when I say they, I am referring, of course, to DNB, had no answer for NLG's pressure. None. Like, they tried to do the same thing that NLG was doing, but they were completely out of sorts because of that pressure. And I kind of worried that you might see a really lopsided score because of that. Because I was just thinking, like, man, if Ed's not on his game and they're not well coordinated, they're just a worse version of NLG. And games like that tend to be really one-sided, where you might see DNB win their next 3 games. But then you look at this and say, my God, why did they get stomped so bad in week 1? It's because you're mirroring another team and they're better at everything that you do than you are because you play the same style. Really not, there's no place for you to really go in a matchup like that. You kind of just lose at every turn. So be curious to see how this transitions through the season. If this was just kind of a matchup where 2 teams are really similar, but one was just better at it, or if NLG is just really that darn good. I have a hard time believing DNB is bad, looking at that roster. But, I mean, what, 5-2, 5-0? That's disgusting.
Well, I mean,
Like-
it could be the map, too. I mean, this may not be the kind of map that they can gel on or establish a kind of superiority on.
You're right.
It's
right.
also week 1. Teams are feeling out any sort of kinks they may have during game time. Practice can go any which way, but when you're going up against an organized team, things tend to either fall apart or you are a solid unit and you're able to come away with a win. Unfortunately, not the case for DNB this time.
Yeah. And you're right. Like, you know, again, we talked about this earlier in the game we watched earlier, where VBM was just, you know, they kind of ran through them in the first round. This is the first week. Like, there's plenty of time. You don't want to start any league off with a loss, but this isn't the end of the world either. Now you have to take it super seriously. Like, okay, where do we clean up? But
They do have 3 weeks left to get
3 weeks
their act
left.
together, really. I mean, they're going to walk away from this with 0 points, while NLG will move on with 5 points because they won in 2 rounds. So, you know, it's a wake-up call. Like, and they can review their demos and be like, hey, where did we fall apart? What happened? What do we need to do better? But NLG should be proud of their performance, and hopefully we will see more of them in the future. Do you have any parting words as we leave week 1?
I do, and then it would be about DNB. You know, conversely to the game we watched earlier, when we watched VBM beat ORB, the first round was very close. In this game, like that's something that ORB can build off of in a loss. Like, hey, we had a chance in the first round. The second round just got away from us. In this one, you got blown out in both rounds. You really didn't stand a chance in either round. So you need to examine, okay, where did we go wrong and how did we go so wrong? And some of it, yes, you might look back at it and say, it's the map, it's this, but you have to figure it out still. So I look at the landscape of the league, right? There are 6 very good teams. The standings aren't updated yet, but the top 3 teams are Frag Yourself with Poto, Style, Desparrow, and Densoa, No Luck's Given and Amara, Ross King, and Legion, and Very Bad Mothers and Ninja Dog, Langrenus, Dranzer, and Skull Rush. These 3 teams did exactly what I thought they would do, but I was surprised by DNB. I thought they'd look a little bit better. Now, looking at the top 3 teams in the standing, I mean, look, like it could change on a week-to-week basis, but I'm definitely pretty surprised that, like I said, DNB looked bad, and I'm really surprised at how good NLG looked. I think those are the kind of takeaways I had. I expected that Frag Yourself was going to win in week 1. It was not a game that we were able to watch, but I figured they'd kind of win. ORB, VBM, I didn't have a great feel for, so I wasn't sure I probably would have favored VBM in that. And that was a good first round. Second round just got away from them. So looking at next week, you've got the 3 teams that lost 0-2, right? And it doesn't matter. Got to win. That's all. How are they going to bounce back? Like, what are the adjustments that we make? Where did we go wrong? Was this just like you said earlier? Was this a case where it was a bad map and this is just not our deal? And look, if it isn't, that's fine, but you still need to clean it up because you might have to play that map again.
Yeah.
Or was this just we didn't practice well enough? We didn't take it seriously? Was it maybe we don't have the right positions for our players? That's kind of the adjustment I'm curious to see. Because I think FU, NLG, and VBM played pretty well, especially NLG. What adjustments are they going to make, though? Because, you can't be complacent in a win either. I'm sure that, for example, VBM is going to go back and say, how did we win 5-0 in round 2, but it was close in round 1? Because they also had two flag leads 2 different times in the first round. So VBM in a win might look back and say, boy, we got to clean that up. Like, we can't surrender 2 flag leads and be in danger of losing a game like that, right? So lots of things to get to at every team, but overall, I think that the game's panned out how I might expect in terms of wins, losses. But this is, look, 3 weeks left. All of these teams are really good. Nobody's out of it. So that's what I'm excited to see, the adjustments. And, as we progress, like, who kind of rises to the top? Who can we look at and say, these are the 2 best teams? And, my initial snap judgments, okay, and key in that is snap judgment. This is not without any thought. This is not with enough evidence to make a real determination.
I mean, we're only in week 1, but
yes.
Like, if you were to pick who you would expect to play out the rest of the regular season and come to the top here, if you want to go on record, who would you think, based on what you've seen so far?
Based on what I've seen, NLG. But I want to say, I want to make a note. Based on what I've seen today, my anticipation, however, my prediction is that VBM will. Well, just because Ninja Dog has done nothing but win for the last year, so
Ninja Dog is a returning champion from the World Doom League. That's true, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about this on the next iteration of Redemption Radio, Rampage Radio. I'm not sure what it's going to be called, but we'll hear that from Human Bones and HateDaddy on that this coming week. But for the rest of you, we're going to let you go. Thank you to Hate for coming out and co-casting. We'll be back again probably next weekend with whatever games get scheduled. Keep an eye out, and we'll play you out. Thanks everybody for coming out, and we'll catch you later.